If you've ever wanted a low maintenance pet that doesn't do anything, that has zero activity, this pet's for you. Hey you guys, it's MJ and welcome back to Pet Adventures again. So before I officially start this video out, I do want to say that I have finally officially released my brand new channel. It's a vlog/lifestyle channel that's going to have lots of things on it, like vlogs and hair care and personal growth and a lot of things that I just want to talk about on there. I released my very first vlog on that channel, so go and check it out. I am super proud of it, and I hope that you guys will be proud of me for making it. It's not really about pets, of course. It's a whole different thing, and I know most of you guys watch me for my pets. But if you want something new and fresh that you might want to try out, it's just gonna be so awesome. I promise you guys it's gonna be so much fun. And if you like day in the life vlogs and hair care and skin care and fitness and personal growth, many other things, if you like any of those things that I just mentioned, you'll love this channel because that's what's gonna be on there, and probably even more than that. So go and support me by subscribing to my new channel and dinging that bell for notifications, as well as this channel. Ding that bell, because YouTube does not like to notify anybody at all when I make a video or when anybody else makes a video. So yeah, subscribe to this channel and go and check us out down below in the description on all our social medias that we have down there. And one more thing, by the way, thank you guys so much for reminding me to use my mic. I actually tried to use my mic today and it turns out the cheap little bugger is busted. That's what you get when you buy really cheap microphones online. Should have seen it coming. But I thought it would at least last me like, I don't know, a year? Hasn't even made the few months cut. Anyway, I don't have a mic right now, so we're going back down old school. But yeah, let's start this video officially. So without further ado, let's learn about some pets. So today I actually decided to make my very first PACMAN care video. I do have a PACMAN now. I have studied these guys for quite a while before I ever decided to get a PACMAN. The care is insanely simple. The main things you do have to remember is to not handle them too much and to make sure that their skin is always moist and that their habitat is always moist, because those are the things that could kill them easily. Aside from that, the care is super simple. You just really have to worry about their amphibian skin. It's a lot different than reptiles. So I'm just going to tell you guys the things that I know about PACMAN care. I don't know everything. I have stated that many times that I definitely do not know everything there is to know about animals. But I am just going to tell you what I know and what I've learned, and I am always learning, as are you guys. You're always learning. There's always something new to be learned. Is that a word? Learned? To be learned? Probably not. I'm unliterate. And that was a joke, so don't leave no troll comments down there about that. That was supposed to be a joke, okay? So before I actually get into the care part of this, I'm going to show you guys my little guy, Worf. He is super cute, and you guys are going to love him. Now, he is the albino kind. He has actual red eyes, so I'm not going to keep him in this shot too much. I have other shots I can probably use, but mostly we're just going to sit down and talk about the care. But I'm going to display my little man before we start anything. Okay, now this is Worf. It's kind of hard to see him right now, but that is him. So he is a super tiny baby. I don't know if you can see that, but he is super small. He definitely is very young. He has a lot of growing to do, but he is the albino kind. He has red eyes. I have some better shots of him. You can kind of see him. Don't jump, please. I'm so scared he's gonna jump. I don't know if you guys know, but I have a super fear about jumping critters. Anytime they have the ability to jump, I freak out because I don't know when they're gonna decide to jump. He has also peed on me from time to time, so I'm kind of scared about that too. But I don't know if you can tell, but my hands are completely wet. I think that it's important to even keep your hands wet while handling these guys. You don't want it to be dry, and you don't want the toxins, all the terrible things going into their skin from your skin. So first rule here is handling is basically non-existent. I'm only handling him for this video, and then after that, he's not really getting handled anytime soon. So handle him only when necessary. Keep it very, very minimal. But he's winking. Are you winking, baby? Yes, you are. He's a winker. Because he's a little playboy like that, you know. He's a player. Say hi. Don't jump, please. But I'm going to put little Worfy back in his cage. You can see him here. Okay, Worfy, time to go back. There you go, boy. So let me show you the enclosure I have him in. When it comes to cage size, I recommend something pretty small. This is a little, what do you call them? Critter keeper. So this is the largest critter keeper I believe you can get. It's like that. But when they're really young, I recommend it small like that. And then once he gets older, he's gonna get a 10-gallon tank. So that's just something temporary for right now that can definitely work. I am not gonna need any heating sources because, you know, a heating source in a tub like this would be very difficult, pretty much non-existent. But I'm not planning on doing any kind of heating because it is always good weather here. Even during our winter here in Florida, it's not really winter, so I don't worry about it. So a 10-gallon tank is the smallest you can do, and honestly my recommended size personally, because these kind of animals, like frogs, like these kinds of frogs and many other frogs, don't move much. These guys are sit and wait predators. They literally wait for food to come to their face and then they eat it up. So they're not gonna need much space. I mean, every single time I come in my room, I look at Worf and I say, any day now, man, any day. Meaning this guy doesn't move. I mean, this guy stays in the same exact position all week. I leave the house, okay? I leave the house. He's in one position. I come back from the house to the house and he's in the same position. These guys do not move, ever. Now, 75 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit is the perfect temps in between that they can range from. That is the ideal perfect temp. However, they can really survive other temperatures a little bit better. It's better a little bit cooler than hotter. But for instance, if it went down to 70, 75, they'd still even be okay. You know, that's pretty much the lowest it gets here in Florida, so I don't worry about it. But either way, if it ever does get anywhere too colder than what I've already just listed, then what you can do is you can get a very, very low heat mat. And don't forget also, these guys bury themselves really well. I knew that as soon as I got this guy. They bury themselves really well in their substrate. So when you if you do have to put a heat mat in there, a very low heat mat. What is this? There's like something floating in the air here today. Curse my house. My house is too much to deal with. Too much dust everywhere. If you had allergies and you came in my house, you'd be dead, okay? Dead. All these cats and everything. But you can put a towel in between the heat mat and, you know, because it really would be too hot because your PACMAN frog is gonna bury himself all the way down to the heat mat and he's gonna get severely burned. So you do need to put a towel in between in the cage on top of the heat mat because that would just be way too hot. I do not recommend any kind of heat lights whatsoever. These guys cannot be dried out or they will die right away. So no heat lights whatsoever. Also, there are albino types. I have an albino type, and putting a heat light or any kind of like too much light would just be way too much for them to handle. So best case scenario, if you need a heat mat, use it, but that's all you're going to use. No heat lights ever. Another trick I have learned with my animals when I think it might be a little too cold is to put a very light like t-shirt, a very small light t-shirt over the top of their cage. And of course, make sure there's still plenty of holes for them to breathe out of, but you can put that on top of the cage as well. It'll keep it a little bit better during the cold weather. Now, as far as diet, their diet is very simple. These guys are just insectivores, so it's very simple. It's the same thing as with most reptiles and amphibians and things like that. So basic stuff. Dust your crickets. Make sure you feed the crickets high calcium, nutritious things to eat. I personally like to feed my crickets Pangaea. Now, Pangaea is filled with so many nutritious things all in one package. That's something I feed to my crested gecko and my gargoyle gecko, so I know it's safe. I've been feeding it for a long time to my crickets, and it has vitamin D3 in it, and it's got all kinds of fruits, which are really good natural things for crickets to eat. So I definitely recommend feeding Pangaea to your crickets, and calcium dust those crickets just like you would for many, many reptiles and amphibians. And of course, you want to do mealworms and things like that. I fed mealworms to my little Worf not long ago, and he loved them, and things are going great. A lot of people say mealworms are bad for the digestion, but as long as you don't feed them often, like super often, it's totally fine. And mealworms are a great source of protein. They help when it comes to needing your animals to gain weight and things like that, so I never stray away from them. I just don't recommend feeding them all the time, like, on a weekly basis. Now, like I said, when it comes to handling is basically non-existent. Really, you never want to handle these guys unless you're about to clean their tub or you want to quickly show them to a friend or something like that, or for a video or something like that. It's got to be a super rare occasion, and also make sure that you moisten your hands with water and make sure that it is good water, not tap water. Tap water is terrible for any kind of aminal. There I go. I'm always saying aminal because I'm unliterate. Yeah, but basically very minimal handling, like never, unless you have to. Also, a tip when feeding them is always use tongs or keep them in a separate tub. The reason why is because your substrate is most likely going to be an eco-earth of some sort, which I'll get to later, but that's going to be, you basically need dirt, any kind of dirt for substrate. Not any kind, but you know what I mean. Anywho, that gets in their mouth, and I truly believe that it is not healthy for any animal to have their substrate go into their digestive system. Over time, that cannot be good. I don't care what anyone tells me. That's just common sense. So when you're feeding your little froggy or any animal that has eco-earth that stays down in the substrate a lot and gets their substrate on them and stuff, definitely either tong feed them or feed them in a separate tub. Do not ever let them eat their own substrate. If it's happened rarely and there was like something that happened by accident, it's okay, but if they're eating their substrate every single time they're eating their food, not good. You do not want that. So that's just a feeding tip there. Now moving into that, substrate. What do you use for substrate? Well, any kind of eco-earth type substrate is good. So as you guys can see, I have a dirt substrate here. So you don't want to use actual dirt from outside, so don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be stupid. But any kind of dirt type substrate you can find at the store. Vector, shut up. Shut up, Vector. Hey, Vector. He thinks I'm talking to him all the time, even when I'm not saying his name. That robot is spying on me. It's so cute though, I like him. That substrate, very moist, which one you want to use, as long as it's some kind of eco-earth type substrate at the store, not outside. Whatever you decide to use, make sure it's always moist. I technically recommend 70 to 80% for your humidity. I think that humidity is insanely important when it comes to PACMAN frogs, and lots of other types of animals. But humidity, hugely important. I mean, so important. So I really do recommend keeping it between 70 to 80. Any less than that, if it starts drying out, it's not gonna work out. Now, as far as keeping a bowl in there, most likely if you're doing really good with your PACMAN frog, he or she is not going to be going inside the bowl often. Often the reason why they don't go in their bowls is because they're already getting plenty of water through their skin. So if your PACMAN frog is going to its bowl often, there's something wrong with that, because that means they're not getting enough of the water that they need through their skin. That means that they're craving it, which they're not supposed to. However, I do keep it in there just in case Worf decides to use it. It also keeps extra humidity in the tank. So in my opinion, this is my opinion, but I really don't believe that there's too much humidity. Like, you could do too much humidity when it comes to this particular animal. I have a list here, literally a list, and under behavior, I don't know if you can see that, but under behavior, I put non-existent, LOL. Also, when it comes to your substrate, 2 to 4 inches is really good. You want these guys to be able to bury themselves in the substrate. Very important, because that's just what they do. That's how they sleep sometimes. That's how they hide. That's what they do when they feel insecure, or they just want to get away from the world, or maybe there's too much light in your room. If you've got that substrate really deep, then they can go right under there and just chill. When I first brought Worf home, for the first whole 2 weeks, he buried himself in his substrate and he hardly ever came out, which is understandable. He was scared about his new surroundings, and basically the substrate becomes his hide. There's this really cute thing that Worf does sometimes where I have his big bowl, and then he makes a little like crevice under the bowl, and it's hard to explain, but like, you see his bowl in there? Like, he makes a little crevice or whatever and he goes under it. Like, he lives under his bowl sometimes and he makes a little hole through that. It's hard to explain, but it's super cute, and I always see his little head popping out. And then sometimes when he feels like he wants to be away from the world, he manages to close it up. He closes it up with some substrate. So they like to play around in that. So keep it really thick. Make sure that there's enough for them to bury themselves in. And don't worry, they'll come up whenever they feel like it. And like it says here on my list, behavior is pretty much non-existent. It's like a 5% behavior. But mostly these guys are just sitting around. So if you're looking for an animal to entertain you, this is not a good animal for you. This is just something cute to look at, something to add to your little collection of reptiles, things like that. It's nothing to get real excited to watch all the time, but it's nice to admire them. They're super cute to have. If you think about it, even though they are alive, they're also like a slight little decoration, you know? When you walk into the room and you see them, you think, oh my goodness, so cute. So definitely something fun to kind of look at, but not really watch, because they don't really do anything. And don't get me wrong, when I say they're like a little decoration, that doesn't mean that you need to treat them like a decoration though. Always make sure they're happy and healthy. I just mean that they're kind of a fun little thing to always, you know, take a look at and admire. Now, as far as cleaning, I really don't think you need to clean too often unless you are getting mites in your substrate, which can happen if you have like an eco-earth type substrate. But unless you're ever getting mite problems in there, then you can do like once a week or once even every other week. It really depends on how well you're keeping up the wetness of your substrate and how well it's staying clean for the most part, like no mites or anything like that. Personally, for me, my substrate has been staying pretty clean so far. I don't have any problems with mites. I have had problems with mites in the past. Like, I had a huge problem with mites in the past when it came to my crested gecko. It was so bad that it would happen every week, no matter how often I cleaned it. So I literally just stopped using it. I didn't have time to be cleaning that cage all the time, so I have him over to paper towel because I don't have time for that. But yeah, as far as cleaning, doesn't need to be real often. Now, if you're wondering about size, these guys can do about 4 to 7 inches. It really depends on their sex. So if you have males, they're not gonna be as big. And if you have females, they're gonna be a little bit bigger. Some females get really, really huge. But basically, if you can imagine the size of my hand right now, that's how big a PACMAN can get up to. They can get really large. So like my whole hand basically can be a PACMAN when they get older. But like I said, it really depends on how well you're feeding them, how healthy they are, and of course their sex, depending on if they're male or female. So it's a lot like ball pythons. You know, ball pythons, males are smaller, females get bigger. And honestly, I don't even know if Worf is a male or female yet, but I'm assuming male at the moment. But personally for me, I don't really care. I really don't care if Worf is a female or male. I'm not gonna breed or anything like that, so it really doesn't matter to me. And lastly, lifespan. These guys can go up to 15 years. So it's between 5 to 15 years, depending on how healthy they are, depending on how well kept they are, and how well you're keeping up with what's going on with them, what's wrong with them, and taking them to the vet as needed. So that's all I have for right now. That's my care video on PACMAN frog. These guys are really, really easy. There's only a few main things that you really need to remember. Like the humidity is a huge thing. The handling is a huge thing. You don't want to do that too often. And you know, the heating, if you need to use it, make sure you use it properly, and make sure it's only really cold if you're gonna use that. Don't go using it if it's just a few degrees down. Like if it's just a few degrees colder than it should be, don't worry about it. These guys are not gonna die right away. So just, you know, take your time, observe, learn from your own experience as well. Don't always believe what you're reading on the internet. I'm one of those very few people that believe in that, to not just believe everything you're reading on the internet, because you gotta remember, a lot of people copy what other people say even when they don't really know themselves. So some of this is research, some of this so far is personal experience. Like, I realized the whole substrate eating thing, I realized that was happening when I was feeding Worf, and that's when I decided, like, oh, they shouldn't eat in their cage, or you should be tongue feeding them or something like that because of the substrate intake. That's something I actually learned on my own recently. So learn from your own personal experience, but of course you want to do your research. All right. You want to do your own research as well. Just have fun with it and learn as you go, because that's what I do. I learn as I go. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to check out my brand new channel, my vlogging and lifestyle channel. It's up right now with its very first video, so go and check that out to support me. The link is going to be down below, and I'll also have it in the end credits here. And if you didn't see it already, I have my patrons' names. I credited them at the beginning of this video, so don't forget to look at that as well. So please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and give this video a big thumbs up, especially if you love pets and PACMAN frog. And leave me a comment down below if you're thinking about getting one soon, or if you already have, let me know what's going on there. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!